societies used to ask certain things of architecture in terms of the functional organization of people and organizations in space and time. We increasingly ask these things of software. Locative media pose integrative design questions. Software program, architectural program, political program mix and merge in new ways. As urban functions are translated and transposed into apps, they can be activated alone or in groups at a moment's notice, providing a different interface to the same location, and through this, a specific urban program, one likely co-occupying that location by many others. Architecture's programming expertise must participate wholeheartedly in this assignment, replicating, condensing, mobilizing, diverging, and converging the small and large interfaces that constitute the social. This is less the design of the network than of the computational mechanisms that formulate the nodal and edge conditions, the interface which provide the access or protection of these. It is both meticulously mechanical and broadly dramaturgical, a systematizing of the possibility of particular events appearing both on schedule and off schedule, and of the scenarios by which those events become residual social language. It is a geo-computational program, but one that calculates the conditions of appearance more than it scripts or contains what finally emerges. As the channels of the city are compressed and revealed by the handset's interfaces, the gravity and contiguity of architectural programs dissolve. Use is always mixed. This city requires a logic of program that is less like an OMA sectional diagram and more like the iPhone deck itself. The sectional stacking of many discrete zones of behavior into a single envelope that gives way to exterior and exterior sites that can be activated in any number of different ways by different people using different software. For the traditional urban zoning project, the rhythm of programmatic, social, and behavior discontinuity is dense, but each is bound to its restricted zone in planimetric or sectional space. But in the digital city, zoning becomes much more problematic. Zoning in the traditional sense becomes less enforceable and even self-defeating. When a whole section of the city interacts with the user or group differently, depending on what software they are running. 10 minutes later, a different software activates a different program, and in this architecture is to some extent relieved of the programmatic responsibility of functional instrumentality or even specific purpose. All those spatial logistics have been outsourced to much more liquid media. And the range of services and opportunities for savvy urbanists is vast. From location-aware augmented reality viewfinders, macro sensing and reality mining of composite crowdsourced behavioral data, citizen activists using GIS and mass-market geo-browsers, plugging open map layers into their Ruby and MySQL applications, real-time disease outbreak visualizations and real-time micro-governance of biopolitical swarms, traffic control sensors and toll booth hacks, individually reconfigurable interior partitions, collapsing rooms and even floors, proprietary parking apps, post-Twitter apps, keeping one always at the tentpole center of his or her concentric and now minutely reflexive social networks, bus bench RSS feeds, pigeons that blog, lifelong syncing car, phone, home, cloud, in-pocket web servers, real-time traffic, congestion and crime data patterns informing personal routeware, point-and-scan barcode readers, 4.5-inch Bloomberg terminals, instant carbon footprint visualization, real-time voice-to-voice language translations, location-based serial cinema, Google Habitat, a service streamed by the way, from offshore data centers floating in the ocean, outside of national control, real-time cab spotting, personal RFID managers, data privacy consulting services, gray market concierge, all posted with at least partially open APIs, enabling other apps to further build on the existing stacks. I'd like to propose an experiment. One half of all architects and urbanists in the entire world should, as of now, stop designing new buildings and new developments altogether. Instead, they should invest the historical depth and intellectual nuance of their architectural imaginations into the design and programming of new software that provides for the better use of structures and systems that we already have. It's a simple matter of good content management. The other half, the control groove, may continue as before. Any such development, however, is fraught with risk, not only because of what it would leave behind, but of what it might accomplish, and over which we would quickly lose control. Two things would be clear, however. One, an affinity of things Pervasive computation will make inanimate objects see, hear, and comment on our interactions with them. This experience will be, in many cases, indistinguishable from a psychotic break, or even from the rituals of classical animism. Second is the reactivation of imagined communities. In a recent interview, Paul Virilio notes that today's qualities of technology, instantaneity, ubiquity, immediacy, are those associated with the divine. The killer app of pervasive commuting is not advertising to the hipster flaneur, it is religion. Its impact on Abrahamic monotheisms will be turbulent, existential, and fertile. The digital city, that is post-secular. We arrive then to what the polysemiosis of program, architectural program, software program, political program, and to the possibility of a new mode of interfaciality, an interface ontology. An ontological term would suggest, for interface design, would suggest that all design is interface design. Architecture is an interface to space and people. A steering wheel is an interface to a car an interface to a city an interface to social and economic proximities, etc. But what do I mean then by interface? An interface is any boundary or point of contact between two complex systems, which as a point of contact governs the condition of exchange between those systems. Increasingly, I argue that in a network society, the interfaces between things matter as much, if not more, than the things themselves. Interfaces link and partition society itself as belief systems, ballots, and borders. Such points of contact, everywhere and nowhere at once, are not just our interfaces to the world, but also the world's channels to us. What is open for me may be closed to you, and so our vectors are made divergent. Case in point, the US-Mexico border is an interface on all these levels. It is a boundary surface connecting the two national bodies and economies, and which governs the condition of exchange between them. To the individual person or thing hoping to pass through the border, there's a complex of physical, legal, and semiotic barriers. Also, in focusing passage through specific checkpoints, it structures the flow into slow, surveillable boulevards, giving form to the massing patterns in its proximity. In the case of the border, the program is an imagination and duties policy. That program is executed by at least two other kinds of program. The border is an abstract line in an abstract geopolitical space, but it's also a series of architectural interventions on and as that line. The border interface channels flow into a series of inspection sites, where the nominating interfaces can be employed. Furthermore, that inspection is executed increasingly by software that cites, checks, and organizes that flow according to the imperatives of how it is programmed, ostensibly in some direct representation of the imagination and duties policies on behalf of which it computes. In theory, all three programs, architectural, software, political, congeal into a single interface, imposing a single comprehensive act of governance. Societies, then, are composed of interfaces, hard ones and soft ones, slow ones and fast ones, immobile ones and mobile ones, concrete ones and electronic ones. The accumulation of interfaces generate networks, and the accumulation of networks generates territories, themselves governed by interfaces. Their work is to some extent a propositional fabrication of just such a potential network. In this, what we may want to define as program is that which seeks to organize interfaces in its image. An architect models not just a bundle of interfaces, but a program for how they will serve in channel habitation. A software designer configures computation, not just as a mountain of calculations, but as a culturally practical instrument with which significant words, numbers, and images can be rearranged and revalued. Outside design studios, official institutions, and everyday people busy themselves remaking the world every morning, reconfiguring it, and being reconfigured by it, according to the interfaces at hand, and any number of imaginaries for how they might be. Interfaces require activation to perform, and networks require interfaces to incorporate. Activation requires program to direct itself. In conclusion, there There is no architecture without action, no architecture without events, no architecture without